I would now like to welcome Gia to the stage. Gia, please.
All right, everybody, how is everyone? Okay, let's, it was a really excellent session, but let's get a blood flowing again, so if everyone can just stand up. And just shake it up. No, and shake it. Oh, just roll shaking. Shake. If you're not, मैं आके सबको shake कर रहा हूँ. Shake, you're not shaking. Shake. पूरा shake करें, पूरा. Shaking. Everyone's awake. Everyone's ready because I'm going to require some participation. On a session, it's not going to be fun, okay? I can do it. All right. So, as important as it is to build a sustainable business model, to understand who your customers are, to understand how you're going to build your revenue streams, your product, your technology, if you don't know how to communicate the vision or the mission or how you've done all of that into a coherent pitch, you won't be able to move very far. Because the pitch is what allows you to convince stakeholders, partners, people who want to give you money, whether or not your business is viable and whether or not you're going to be able to scale it up. I want to start by that there's several different ways to get funding. So I want to clear that first. So one of the ways is angel investment or through VCs. Another strategy is to go for grant investments. So that can be through different pitch competitions, prize startups, there's Startup Weekend, there's several different programs that are actually even hosted now. I've seen them starting to pop up more and more in the city that people are starting to do. So if you're still in ideation phase, you're still in concept phase, going for a grant or a prize is a good way to at least get some kind of money to get you started while you're building out and testing your business model. All right, so why am I a credible source for how to pitch? So I'm actually one of the Hulk Prize winners from 2017. So if you guys haven't heard about the Hulk Prize before, it's basically a global startup competition for students to create social impact businesses. I grew up in the States, so I never lived in Karachi before. I only had family here, and once we won our funding, I committed to moving here in 2018. So when we talk about commitment to your business, sacrificing as, leaving my family and friends behind and moving to a whole new country, that's the kind of commitment we're speaking about. And for someone who was earlier asking, I'm a student, how am I able to build, how should I build a business or not? I was an undergrad student. So I'm only 24, and same thing with my 3 other co-founders. We worked on our business model while we were studying, so we would go to our classes, and every single Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., we would work on our business model, and then we would study for exams in between. And while we went through this iterative process for our competition, we were able to go through about 5 different competition rounds with pitching, and then, got this picture with Bill Clinton and $1 million in seed funding. So I'm going to explain to you how can you do this as well, right? And the idea is you always want to start with your value proposition. So what's your magic sauce? Even VCs, sometimes when they're speaking to you, they're going to be like, what's your magic sauce? What makes you different than everybody else when you're talking about your startup? So who here has ideas or startups that they're already working on? Cool. So somebody give me your magic sauce. Who can tell me what their magic sauce is? Give me an example.
So basically, my product is an education product, and we are integrating parents with schools. So nowadays, communication is very important. So our magic sauce is that we are making life easier for parents to communicate to schools and schools vice versa.
Okay, so that was a good example of a slogan, but that's not your magic sauce. So let's take an example of a company that already exists. Okay, let's do Kareem. What's Kareem's magic sauce? Why are they different than other mobility players in the market like Uber, like Airlift, like Swivel, like Roshni Rides? What is Kareem's magic sauce?
Customer satisfaction.
if you are asking about magic sauce, then customer satisfaction, they just focus on customer satisfaction.
Okay, so customer satisfaction, what else? Oh.
Not in Uber and other services, you can see much, but in the career, they are doing promotion and doing services, all the way to that.
Okay, so there's constant innovation. So I would, reliability. I would also say localization is Kareem's key strength. They've really been able to focus in on what the local market wants and how they're acting. That's why they have a lot of loyal customers compared to maybe an Uber, right? So Chalo, let's go, or Rishta Auntie Wali campaign. Everybody remembers that, right? So when people think about Kareem, they think about all of these fun campaigns that they did that were very localized to the market. That's, and maybe Umar can disagree with me because he knows the marketing much better than I do. But that's what I would argue is as one of their magic sauce. So you're looking at what is your competitive differentiator, what can you defend? At Roshni Rides, our magic sauce is the fact that we do a monthly subscription on scheduled race rides. We target specifically routine rides that affords us safety, affordability, reliability. Okay? Yeah. So what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna break down 8 steps to $1 million pitch. What I've done is I've taken the slides from our Hulk Prize pitch and kind of positioned them to you in different steps. I recommend you write these down because this is what would get you a 6-minute or 10-minute pitch. We've basically been able to master this formula about what successful concept-based startups are looking at pitching. And the way we did this is that when we were at Hulk Prize, we literally watched every single finalist video 100 times. And we were able to narrow down what is every single finalist team pitching, how are they positioning their slides, what are the elements that they're doing it, and this is the formula that we came up with and what I'm sharing with you guys today. Okay? So you ready? Okay. So the first element is the story. This is super important. So there's 3 things here. It has to be emotional, it has to be relatable, and it has to be memorable. So over here, when you see this slide of Nasreen, this is the character we started off with when we were in the Hulk Prize. What do you guys feel when you see her? Bijari. Okay, that's good. So emotional sentiment. Or kya? Needy woman, is that what you said? Helpless. Does she look happy to you? No. Does she look like a young person who can probably figure things out on her own? No. Does she look like somebody you want to help?
Yes.
Yes, right? So that was very purposeful. So we actually met Nasreen, and we with her consent, were able to take pictures of her while she was telling her story, and we didn't ask her to pose in any way. This is literally how she was sitting when she was talking to us, and that gave us enough drive to build our story for our business. We can share, I can share them. Yeah. So, so it's really important to get that first level of human engagement, because you can have the best product ever, but if the people you're trying to convince don't give a crap about it, they're probably not going to give you their money, right? They're not going to believe you, they're not going to want to invest their time in you, because your product will always evolve, your business model will always evolve, especially when you go to market. You're going to make a lot of pivots. The pitch that I'm showing you today is what we originally pitched for Hulk Prize in 2017. We're doing nothing of the sort. We were doing a rickshaw network system. That's what we were pitching originally. And now we are a commuting solution. We're basically digitizing pick and drop. And the second thing is relatable. So remember your audience. I was pitching at the United Nations. I know that there was a lot of people in the audience who were looking at SDG goals, who wanted to do something with women, who understood that they were looking at vulnerable populations. So if you're pitching, for example, for Founders Institute, and you know you should do research on every single mentor that's watching your pitch. Okay? So if you guys were pitching in front of us today, which they might be, I would have done research on who the mentors are, and it was shared very widely before. What are we all interested in? Who do you build the relationship with? For example, I love women's-based initiatives. So if your story is about women, I'll probably give you a lot more of my attention. And then the last thing is memorable. Make sure there's a name and a face to your story that you carry throughout your pitch. And we're gonna start with Nasreen. All right, so the next thing is the problem. So this is actually, I think, the most difficult part to condense into a really short area, because you do the most research about the problem, right? You spend the most time understanding what the problem is in the market, why do we need to solve it? It's the reason you're building your business, right? And so when we were doing our pitches, we had a really hard time of driving our 2 to 4 minute segment on just the problem into 10 to 15 seconds. But the thing is, the audience doesn't need to know as many details as you do, right? They just need to get a real quick snapshot of why is this problem affecting my target market or the users I want to engage. So for me, we knew that women was the story that we were going for. So we said Pakistani women are 4 times less mobile than men. Just one sentence. What does this one sentence tell you? Let's do hands. Okay.
A problem and a huge opportunity.
Great. I think that's the best way to sum it. There's a problem, there's an opportunity, I've quantified it, I've put a number, and then great, I also put this picture. What does this picture tell you? What do you see? Do you see any vehicles around her? She has her kid. There's like some nice trash on the side over here. There's like vehicles in the distance. Do you think that this is a great, comfortable place to have a walk? No. Is this somewhere you would want to walk with your kids? No, right? And especially for people who've never been to Karachi, who are sitting in the UN, this is a picture that really affects them, right? So it's quantifiable and it relates to your story. Do I have a man here or do I have a woman? We have a woman. So can you picture Nasreen being in this picture?
Yes.
Yeah. So using your images and the words is also very important. So the next thing you're going to talk about is your problem. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, then you come into the solution. So you have to state your business and your product, and it can be combined with your business model here. So I have a very simple slide. Our solution is Roshni Rides. We are the carpooling platform for business. This is an example slide that I pulled out for you guys. And we just have an image of our app to show you that it's a technology solution, and this is where you would discuss, okay, here's how we're going about it. Or you can go directly into your business model as well. So this is also 2 examples. So when we were first pitching, we were solar electric rickshaw, so you can see how much our business model has evolved. And so we simmered it down into steps. First you need a power, then you need an e-rickshaw, then you need your route, then you need a Roshni hub, and then we would explain what those things are. The other thing is that we simmered it down into 3 key taglines: affordable, reliable, and accessible, right? That was what our key lines were. And then we related down to what facets of the business model are with those key taglines. So it needs to be very simple. That's why we do it into steps. A 5-year-old must be able to understand it. When we were practicing our pitch, we would literally bring family members, students, people from our community, fill the room just like this and do things like called a demo day. And then we would actually ask all of the children to sit up front, and then at the end we would say, "Aapko kya samajh aaya pitch se? What do you think we do?" And if they could not reiterate back what our business model was to us, then we didn't do a good job, we failed. So if you guys have younger siblings at home, or if there's any kids in your house, pitch with them first. If a 5-year-old can explain what your business model is back to you, you got it down. Yeah. So we actually did this, again keeping in mind with our audience, because the Holt Prize's case study, the competition was about dignity. So for us, we needed to really blast that we were solving that problem for them. So again, understand who your audience is, who are you pitching for. So for example, right now I'm raising a bridge round, so I'm talking to actual real VCs and not going for grant funding. And I have a different style of presentation for different kinds of investors, depending on where they're from, what kind of fund they have, and what their ticket size is. And I pitch and change my slides accordingly, depending on every single person, because I know what they're looking for and what they want, and I've done my research. One size does not fit all in this case. So make sure that you're doing your homework. So tie in your value proposition. So the value proposition is exactly what Omar just pointed out: the dignified transportation, the accessibility, the reliability, the affordability. That's your magic sauce that we're talking about. And break it down. And I think I covered that already. Are there any questions up until this point? Because this is probably the most important slide in your entire presentation. Okay, cool. The next thing is the financials. I've seen a lot of people pitch locally, and they always skip this part, probably because it's the hardest to show and it's the hardest to do, and really do the homework for it. And it's really, really important that you guys have your financials down. It's easy to hear about, all of this funding coming in and top line revenue growth and these fancy names, but if you don't know your numbers and you haven't done your research, then no one is going to give you their money to play with, right? So the first essential thing is unit economics. Has anybody heard of this term? Do you guys know what this is? Okay, so I'll go over it. I was new to it too. I completely didn't know until a mentor basically tore us apart and said that if you don't have your unit economics, you're not going to do anything with your startup. And so we had to restart from the beginning. Unit economics is first you have to identify, okay, what is your unit? What is the one thing that you're selling over and over and over again? For us, it's a vehicle, right? It's the actually pick and drop commute car, right? And so you break down, okay, uski revenue kitna hoga, usme kaun si cost drivers hain, how much can this one thing make? And then if I scale it out, if I say I'm going to be able to sell 10,000 of those things, all right, how much revenue? They can do the mental math on their own, right? They just want to know, okay, what can one thing, one drop make for me? What can one commission model make? What can one subscription model make? So identifying what those things are really important in the basics of even your pitch. Then I would do a projected cost revenue. So I think earlier we were talking about the cost and revenue lines of WeWork, right? And they might have gotten away with it, but that's due to some other factors as well. But that's what a lot of people are going to be looking for, is how you're projecting those numbers out. You can do a 5-year growth if you're raising for a very next 10, 12 months. You don't have to go as lengthy as we did. You can do the next 12 months, the next 18 months, which is what I actually would recommend for your stage of startup. And then the bottom line is, will I make money? Do the lines ever intersect? Do they ever come into a profit margin? And if you do this math on your own and you're like, I'm never gonna make money, then you need to rethink your business model before you start pitching. Make sense? Then the next thing is pilot and scale. I think the pilot is really, really important because this is your MVP stage, your pilot, it's an exercise. It shows you that I've tested my product and it works. A lot of people here run on hypotheticals, and that's not going to allow you to advance to the next stage, right? So a pilot can be even as something as simple as 4 to 6 weeks of testing on the ground. You don't even need your product to be ready, right? If you are a technology solution. Roshni Rides ran without technology for the first 10 months of our existence. We just released our app 2 months ago for consumers. We were doing everything manually, literally through WhatsApp groups. And so now we've been able to automate. So when I go and I pitch, I already say, I have all this traction, and guess what? I did it with no technology. I did it all on my own. That's my MVP, that's my pilot, to show that we've done this, we've done it the hard way, and now we're ready to do it the easy way and scale faster with good money. And so when we were in the Health Prize, we did the same thing. So I've tested this and it works. We came to test our product at the time in Orangi. So we did a family and funds round and raised around $30,000 while we were in undergrad. 2 of my co-founders graduated from their degrees on May 15th, and then May 17th we all flew out. And we spent around 8 weeks here in Orangi. And we got 3 rickshaws. At the time we were electric rickshaws. We built a solar electric farm. Roshni Rides is actually the first license holder for electric vehicles in Karachi. We had to go through government bureaucracy. That was a learning lesson for us as well. And we started running electric rickshaws in Orangi. And while we were piloting, we learned our first big lesson as a startup. And we were asking our customers, we're like, this is really expensive. Do you guys even want this product? And guess what they said? No, we don't really care. And that was the first time we learned you need to ask your customer, do they want what you're providing? Do they like what you're providing? Get customer feedback from on the ground. And then we made our first pivot because it made absolutely no sense to put all of this investment in electric vehicles when nobody cared about it. All they cared about was getting from point A to point B in a way that was safe and affordable. And that's where we started pivoting our model. So when you pilot, you have the on-the-ground experience of talking to your customer. You know, titles like founder and CEO and COO or whatever, they sound really fancy, but when you're a founder, if you're not on the ground actually talking to your customers and getting your hands dirty, then you will never get to be that stage. It's not as glamorous as it seems. I used to run focus groups with all of my customers. My customers जो पहले वाले थे still have my number. They still call me at 2 a.m. saying कि